You're watching Pyro Media Network.
I could be running around chasing you, but I won't. Cause I got better things to do. Rather spend my precious time chasing somebody who loves me too. If I got $1 for every time you slam the door, I would be the richest girl alive, life. If you hadn't run away every time I asked you stay, you would sleep right next to me tonight. And you didn't know me, all you wanted was a game to play, and you couldn't handle that I had no ways. Around your mind tricks and your side chicks, I'm a winner, babe. But you didn't win this.
Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope your experience is fruitful. Please feel free to visit our website to find out how you can join our growing family. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. Also, share so others may enjoy as well. And we hope you would consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. All right, let's start the show.
Victorious! Victorious!
Hey, happy Friday, Junior. Welcome to this week's episode of Dr. Victorious. I am Dr. Nicole D. Vick. I decided that this week I was going to do this in podcast mode, true podcast mode, right? Where you don't see me, you just hear me. So let's just jump on in. It is Women's History Month. And it's my second favorite time of the year, right? Black History Month is my favorite, followed by Women's History Month, mostly because I have decided that this is Black Women's History Month. That's just, I don't know. I've always kind of felt that way, at least as long as I've done this podcast. So, yeah. And it's not really because I don't believe other women don't matter. Of course they do, right? But I think that Black women's labor, survival, and our contributions have often been minimized, flattened, or absorbed into broader narratives that don't really name us. Like, I've seen it even just in recent history. Like, wait a minute, hello. That was a Black woman's thought process. That was a Black woman's idea. Why aren't we talking about this? So that's why, for me, it's really Black Women's History Month. It just is. So this week, I want to do something really personal. I mean, I have talked about the Black women who have built me. I know I've talked about it before, but I don't know if I've really framed it in this way. The women in my family have taught me about freedom, dignity, and survival. I didn't even have the language for it at the time. But, having the benefit of time, age, and understanding, it's like, I get it now. So, you guys know I'm a public health person. And before I ever studied it, I was living inside of it. And I remember writing a paper for my doctoral degree. I forgot what the assignment was, but I remember very clearly saying, you know what? The first time I fully recognized that Black people have a different experience than other people was during the Rodney King beating and the civil unrest that happened afterwards. So I was in like 8th grade. And yes, I had learned about slavery in elementary school, but I think that was the first time, like in my face, real life, in real time example of, whoa, there's a different set of rules for black folk. And this ain't cool. So I don't know. Again, I before I even knew what public health was per se, I was living it. And I even talk about that too. And in other instances where I make that case. So that's kind of where this whole episode is coming from. So I'm going to talk about 2 women in my family, and their role in my life, the time period they lived in, and the things that they did that really stuck with me. The first one I'll talk about, and I know I've talked about her before, my great grandmother, my maternal great grandmother, Tommy Lee Cross Simpkins. I'm missing one of her last names. It's okay. Anyway, she was born per the census in 1898. And one of the things that I remember is that her parents were enslaved. Now, I didn't find this out until much later. Growing up with her, we never had those kinds of conversations. I remember asking her where she was born and where she lived. And she told me she was from Haskell, Oklahoma, which actually is not true. She was born in Tennessee. So, she loved to draw. I actually still have a drawing of the home that she says she was raised in my records. I have photos and all sorts of things. So one of the things that's interesting about her is, again, think about it. She's one generation removed from slavery. And I don't know if is that technically one generation? Because her parents were enslaved. And then when slavery ended, so for example, her father was born in 1856. And so he was about 10 years old when slavery ended. So I guess that is one generation. So her parents took her and her sisters, I think there were 6 sisters total, to Oklahoma. And I have school records of them in Oklahoma. And I thought that was really cool. I'm just grateful for all the documentation of things. And so she at some point got married and she had my grandmother. She only had one child. So similar to me, only had one kid. We're like, baby, that's enough. One child. But my great grandmother was a cosmetologist, beautician. I don't know what the term was at the time. I think it was cosmetologist or beautician or whatever. And apparently she went to school in the Midwest. So I think she was away a lot. I remember hearing stories from my family that my great grandmother was away a lot. And that's why my grandma, had some of the issues that she had. But she went to school to get her license. I actually have copies of my great grandmother's cosmetology licenses here in California from like the 1960s. But anyway, she was trained under Madam C.J. Walker's program. And I also have pictures of her work. I think she was a makeup artist as well. I have photos of her beauty salon here in South Los Angeles, literally on South Central Avenue. So when we talk about South Central Los Angeles, her folks, her family, her future husband, because she got married again, businesses were on South Central Avenue. So really interesting stuff. So I see her as an independent woman, right? A business-minded woman, someone who was able to take care of herself. And I think that really set the tone, at least for me, to think about like what kind of woman I would be as I grew up. I really did look up to her because by the time I came around, she was very old, been retired, and whatnot. But it was just an interesting thing. And again, at that time as a child, I had no idea that her parents had been enslaved. I had no idea who I was literally living with. We lived in the same home. I didn't learn a lot of this until much, much later, but I give her credit because her and my great grandfather really had a lot of Black history in their homes, all the Jet magazines, the Ebony magazines, the all sorts of books and things. And so I was exposed to Blackness and who I was very, very early on in my life. I have told this story before. She was the one that said, "Hey, are you going to go to college when you get, grow up?" And I said, yes, because that's what you're supposed to say as the great grandchild. And she said, good, because you'll become Dr. Vick. So she was the first one that called it and in regards to being Dr. Vick. The other funny thing is, I actually heard, she wasn't mean to me necessarily, but I heard from my mama and them that she was mean. So, and I mean, think about it. Think about the kind of life that she had to lead. I'd be mean too. Hell. But I mean, the things that she did, think about that. Starting your own business, leaving your home. So they left Tennessee. I don't know how old she was when they left Tennessee to go to Oklahoma, but she had a child by the time she left Oklahoma to come to Los Angeles. I just think about how brave and courageous it is to leave your home or to leave where you live to go somewhere else. That's why I admire Andrea so much, because I'm like, you left Los Angeles and moved to Phoenix. I mean, people do it all the time. I don't do things like that. I stay here. I've been in Los Angeles my entire life. I probably won't die here now that I think about it now, but I'm like, like that's huge. So kind of moving into an unknown, charting your own way, starting your business, doing your thing, literally have a storefront, beauty salon. Her beauty salon was in the Green Book, right? Like those kinds of things. I'm like, dang, that's badass. It really is. At least to me. I don't know how many people do those kinds of things on a daily basis, but I'm not one of them kind of people. I'm kind of like, wait, I'm very much more cautious in some ways. And I just feel like she charted her own way and made a living for herself and a life for herself. So very good example for me. Like, hey, do what you got to do. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. And again, just being that one generation removed from slavery, like that's insane. And so the other woman I want to talk about is my mother's oldest sister. She is my aunt. Her name is Janet Neal. And she's another one, I think, to me is like trailblazer. She has been, from what I remember, growing up with her, an advocate for people with disabilities for as long as I can remember, being on commissions, city commissions, county commissions, just being very vocal, very outspoken, and very much like an activist. Like sometimes I'd be like, oh my gosh, like she's going to cause a scene, but like for a good reason, right? Like I need to stir up trouble, or I need to stir up visibility around an issue. She had a radio show on KTYM radio. She's been on television. I remember she used to do, I'm gonna call it background on certain TV shows we watch. She said, look, that's me in the back. And I'm like, oh my God, that's my auntie. She was very much in the political space. Like I remember one time I had met Mark Ridley Thomas, who at the time, I believe at that time was county supervisor here in Los Angeles. And I had asked him if he knew my auntie, and he was like, yes. And he started talking like, yes, like listing all of, I'm like, oh shit, I thought my auntie was telling me a lie. No, she was not. Like she had pictures with Tom Bradley. Like, so I also see her as someone that was not afraid, that was courageous, that was an activist, as I said before, someone who looked out for other people. And I see that also in my daughter. Like she's that kind of a person too. I see her as always making sure the little guy is taken care of, the underdog is supported and uplifted. So I feel like I learned so much from my great grandmother, who actually died when I think I was 20, because she died a little bit after Andrea was born, which is amazing. She got to see her great granddaughter. And yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing, and I'm really, really blessed. I'm very much aware of how fortunate I am to have had the type of mentorship, leadership, and history in my own family. So those are the two women in my life that really touched me and had an impact on me. I was talking to someone around, they were like, who are your Black history heroes? And I was like, most people would say something like Rosa Parks or MLK or Malcolm X. And I'm like, the Black history heroes in my mind are in my own family. And I started to tell those kinds of stories. But anyway, at the time, growing up with my great grandmother and my aunt, I didn't really have language for what they were doing or who they were or what they did. But I get it now, right? They were doing things like economic strategy, economic strategist, political navigation, harm reduction. They were doing things to really take care of themselves and their families. And they just really inspired me. It helped me to become the person that I am. So it's just really, really interesting stuff.
This is Tammy from Tammy's Take, and you're watching Pyro Media Network.
Hey, it's Pastor Kim from It's Just Kim Live Show, and you're watching Pyro Media Network.
So the women in my family were not anomalies. They were part of a lineage, right? They were part of a lineage of women like Ella Baker, who was focused on community-centered leadership, or Fannie Lou Hamer, who organized from a lived experience, or Shirley Chisholm, who just did not ask for permission. Like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to chart this course. So, thinking about Ella Baker's belief that strong people don't need strong leaders. They didn't wait for institutions to save them. I think, especially thinking about, well, actually, no, I was going to say thinking about my great grandmother, but actually both of them in different perspectives, right? They didn't wait for institutions to save them. They saved themselves. My great grandmother didn't wait for someone. She went to school and she went and opened a beauty salon and made her own living. My aunt, advocate for people with disabilities, herself disabled. She would have been still waiting, right? No, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to push. I'm going to push. I'm going to push through. I'm going to push forward. I think about Fannie Lou Hamer, who organized from her lived experience, and how Black women have always turned survival into strategy, right? Like, we've always had to make do with nothing or with very little. And so I think about, again, the folks that really played a role in shaping who I am, and how they very much mirror some of the notable Black women in Black history that we're aware of. Something I think a lot about is survival. Survival for Black women has really never been passive. It has always required this sort of very nuanced calculation. When to speak, when to be silent, when to stay, when to leave, when to endure, and when to resist. In my own research, I talk a lot about self-silencing that happens with Black women in the workspace. We are taught, not necessarily formally, but by example and lived experience, that sometimes being quiet is our best bet. Like, I ain't saying nothing, because if I say something, something else is going to happen that I'm not wanting to happen. So I'm just going to sit here and be quiet and hope that whatever is happening will pass over me. And it's very calculated. And from my research, it goes back to slavery. I'm going to play small. I'm not going to say nothing, because it was a way to make sure that we survived. And I think for all of us as Black women, we make these calculations almost on a minute by minute basis, wherever we are. Like, do I say something? Do I not? Do I stay? Do I leave? Do I endure or do I resist? All those things, sort of calculations, your brain never stops, because you're constantly in this mode of being aware of what's happening. And I almost want to say, as harmful as that is in some respects, it is also one of our secret sauces. I really think it is, because we have to see and know and be aware of everything. We see and know and are aware of everything. We notice things that other people do not notice. We see things that people don't see, and we have sort of this library of, okay, this is something that I need to be paying attention to. So it's this really interesting thing for us. And this calculation is very political. Just like everything else about Blackness and Black womanhood is political, this ability to make these calculations is also very political, because it exists inside systems that were not designed for our thriving. Because it exists inside systems that were not designed for our thriving, right? And because we are living in this system or systems, right, that were not designed for us to thrive, again, we have to always, minute by minute, be making these calculations about what we doing, what we not doing, who's with us, who ain't, what we gonna say, what we not. And it happens all the time. Really interesting things that I think about a lot in regards to Black womanhood. You know, I wonder, now I'm turning this to you, listener. I wonder who the Black women are in your family, whose names deserve to be said, who deserve to be written down. I wonder whose strategies kept your family afloat. Probably was that Black woman, right? I wonder what would happen if we treated everyday Black women as historical figures, because they are. Sigh. I'm just about to go on a rabbit hole just a little bit. Just go turn left a little bit. I'm just thinking about how we create so much culture. We do so much, and yet I don't even know what the word is, but we have produced so much culture, art, thought, intellectual thought about a lot of things. And I think in some aspects it's highly regarded, but then in some respects it's not, right? And it's sort of tossed aside or up for people to steal and not give us credit. And it's like, wow, in what realm or in what plane will there be a time and a place where we will finally get our due? Like, yes, you all are the creators of so much. When will that come? That's what I want to know. And will it come in our lifetime? Will I be here? I don't know. It's interesting, just something to think about. But turning it to you, think about the women, the Black women in your family whose names deserve to be called out loud and to be written down. And, the things that they did to keep your family afloat. And again, all of us, regular degular Black women, we have done so much. And I think one day we will get our due, I'm hoping for that. Before I had all my degrees, I got 3 of them. One of them now is yellow with age. And I'm like, oh no, it's been that long. I was like, dang. Anyway, but before I had the titles, the podcast host, the commissioner, the board chair, the this and the that, before I had the language and the understanding, I had Black women who practice freedom in real time. And I think about my great grandmother. I'm going to go all the way back to her. Did she even realize that she practiced freedom in real time? Like so many Black women, I think in her time were business women. They had to be creative and think through ways to earn a living. But I also would say a lot of them were probably domestic workers and things like that. So it's really interesting to see and understand and think about like what it took to step out and chart a different course. I've looked through copies of the Green Book and seen other businesses that were, I'm sure, owned by Black women. And I'm like, wow, in a male dominated world, that did not necessarily want us to succeed, we were succeeding. We were kind of doing our own thing. So I wonder if she thought that she was practicing freedom in real time. And I hope she did. I really hope she did. I hope someone told her that if she didn't think of it for herself. And that, that history is worth naming. It really, really is. Yeah, this has been an interesting conversation. I'm almost actually glad that the camera is not on because I'm kind of just talking and letting these thoughts sit in my mind as I'm talking to y'all. So, yeah, this month, this is my challenge to you. Don't just celebrate Black women. Study them. Document them. Talk to the Black women in your family. Talk to the Black women at your church. Talk to them. Ask them about their lives. Ask them what they wanted to be when they grew up. Ask them all the questions. Record it. Document it. I don't think we do enough of that. Most importantly, protect them. I mean, can they protect themselves? Yes. They have autonomy. They can. But we also need to recognize that this world is not kind to Black women. I have been on social media. Y'all know I'm on social media a lot. And sometimes, every so often, I'll see a post from a Black woman and they'll have, they'll say something like, hey, John 245, why did you respond to me in this manner? But I noticed you responded positively to a similar comment or question to a non-Black person. So we get it bad everywhere. At work, on social media, everywhere. And so it's really interesting. So that's why protect them definitely is something we need to be thinking about and being consistent with and intentional with. And if you are a Black woman, honor yourself today and every day. Definitely honor yourself today and every day. I'm going to do better with doing that for myself. I think sometimes we get on autopilot and we're living our life and we're here, there, everywhere, up and down. Woo, just running, ripping and running and ripping. And we don't stop and say, wow, look at what I have done. Look at what I've accomplished. I am proud of myself. So the challenge is to honor yourself today. All right, y'all. Thank you for listening. You know where to find me. I have a fabulous website, www.NicoleDvick.com. On that website, you can purchase my books. I have 3 of them. You can also look at old episodes of my podcast. You can see where I have been guest on other people's podcasts. You can kind of see what I was talking about on those. I think I have some BuzzFeed videos on there as well. Some really cool stuff. So check out the website. I am on social media. I'm posting again. Yeah. I'm on LinkedIn and I am on Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. VICKtorious. So you can check that out and see what I'm talking about on there. And I think that's about it. I will see you next week. Next week will be back to regular schedule. You'll see my face. I'll have a guest. Everything will be just, hey. So I'll talk to y'all next week. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for watching Pyro Media Network. For more information, please visit pyromedianetwork.com.